Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Thursday weather update, recorded on the leap day, February the 29th. Well, we've got high pressure rolling into the country from the Tasman Sea. It's going to drive in some pretty hot weather for the next couple of days, and then it departs. And behind it comes a storm. So let's try and make sense of what is going on at the moment. So here we are, Thursday evening, high pressure pretty much over the South Island. Slight northeast breeze coming in around places like coastal Otago Peninsula. And then further to the north, you've got a windy southeast breeze. That is mostly around the outer edges of the high and a nearby low pressure system. And that low is going to bring in some more cloud and showers to the northeastern corner of the North Island. But the next main system is behind the front. This is the nor'wester, and it brings in cloud, wind, rain, and then a temperature drop that arrives on Monday. Let's take a look at the rainfall for the next 48 hours. You'll see it starts off in the North Island on the eastern side, ends on the western side by the time we get to Saturday evening. So that is the cold front that we just talked about, or that front in the Tasman moving in and up. Meanwhile, that wet weather is that other system departing. There'll be a few showers also bubbling up around Southland and central Otago, but as you can see though, they look fairly hit and miss. So let's try and break down what is coming in for the weekend. So that low that we just talked about, no longer subtropical, pulling southwards and driving in a bit of wet weather that should just brush that northeastern corner. Pretty borderline though, and as you can see by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it is already moving offshore. And then in comes that next system, the southern end of the high. By the time we get into Saturday, the wet weather starts to move up the west coast, comes into Taranaki towards evening. Most other places though in the east, you're looking pretty dry now. As that offshore low moves away, it deepens for the Chatham Islands, but for the mainland or the North and the South Islands, looking fairly settled. But that nor'west wind, subtropical coming out of northern parts towards Australia, means it's a pretty hot day on Saturday from anywhere from North Canterbury right across the North Island, especially inland and eastern areas. By Sunday, the wet weather moves into the western side of the North Island. Hit and miss, so the further north you are, the drier it is. The further south you are, the drier it is. And also eastern areas look quite dry as well, mostly due to the high pressure zone up here and the windy nor'wester that's along with it. You can see the storm though. That is it there on Sunday. So by Monday, in it comes properly. The computer modelling seems to be locking it in a lot more where, as far as the position of the centre is concerned. And this map shows 24 hours of rainfall. The other ones just show a snapshot at lunchtime. This is the whole day's worth of rain. So what you're seeing is the bulk of the heavy rain is in the west coast and mostly the southern half of west coast. So in other words, where it usually is. For the North Island, not a huge amount of rain. The yellow you see there is maybe only 15 millimetres or so across 24 hours. So we're not seeing a huge amount of wet weather, but it does look fairly widespread to be moving in. But I wouldn't expect a huge amount the further north you are, because you're just a long way from the centre of the storm itself. Severe gales are also expected in both main islands and through the Wellington-Cook Strait area. Flight delays, that is a possibility, especially with the more smaller aircraft. The turboprop regional flights may well be delayed on Monday or even cancelled. Now, by the time we get into Tuesday, the storm has moved out to the southeast, and coupled with the high, dredges up a cold southerly. So we'll be seeing cold weather in Southland and Otago. Your temperatures dropping, snow flurries around the mountains, although not a huge amount as you go further up. And then the North Islands turn to start to cool down. Still a windy, warm to hot nor'wester to begin with, but the temperatures do start to gradually drop back down again as we go through the week. And our final map for Wednesday shows what is coming on in next. So we're at that time of year where it's still like summer when you've got high pressure around, or as it's departing and you get the nor'wester. But once it's cleared through, you could see more of these autumn-like lows and storms and cold fronts coming through. But for now, we've got a stormy Monday and Tuesday, and then it starts to settle back down again Wednesday. It'll be cooler in the North Island, certainly cool in the morning for you in the south. And by Thursday, warmer westerlies and northwesterlies start to return. That's all from me. Our Australian forecast is also out today if you're curious to see what's going on across the continent. We'll have a 7-day forecast out this afternoon covering Australia. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow, Friday, the 1st of March, not only to have an update on the storm, but also our next Climate Watch update as we take a look in more detail at the month of March coming up. We'll see you tomorrow.